Hello, you guys. Welcome to Glancing Behind the Veil. It's Thursday night. We're having an interesting evening. Um, been going through having a lot of universal alignments that I think is kind of maybe made this. Hopefully, hello, Evelyn. It's going to hopefully make this to be, I guess, a pathway for all of us to learn from the universe tonight. It seems like I think the universe has some really cool things with this show this evening. Um, I want to welcome you all here. Hi, Deana. I'm Adina. And I'm going to start out this evening and kind of explain what we're going to go through. We're going to learn a little bit about metaphysics. I'm going to give us a quote from Stanislav Grof. And Stanislav Grof stated that spiritual intelligence is the capacity to conduct our life in such a way that it reflects deep philosophical and metaphysical understanding of reality and ourselves, discovered through personal experience through systematic spiritual pursuit. I think kind of the key element that I get out of that quote is where he says spiritual pursuit. And he brings in philosophical and metaphysical elements of that into that statement, letting us know and understand that there's no delineation between physical, philosophical, and spiritual. They all go one in one. There's many branches in the tree that I call it a tree, the tree of philosophy. We have epistemology, which is like the study of the earth. We have ethics, aesthetics, cosmology, which of course is the study of astrology and astronomy. We have theology and realism and political philosophy, but one of those branches is metaphysics. Metaphysics, and Aristotle kind of mentioned it. Metaphysics is one of the it's the study of like the ultimate nature of reality, like what is real and exists. And what I'm hoping to accomplish tonight, and actually with a lot of the episodes, is getting rid of this stigmatism that we who do crystals, we who do anointing and cleansing baths, that do smudging with sage, that believe in a lot of the elemental capabilities or astronomy, etc., that they call pseudoscience. I'm trying to get rid of the pseudo, because to me, especially more and more today, it seems like science is more the pseudo than those that they're trying to deflect from. And I'm hoping that through this, we can kind of learn from each other. We have our guests, and I see we have Evelyn and Deana. I'm hoping that you also will be interactive with us, teach us, hit likes as we go along, comment, ask us questions. We'll try to answer these questions. That way we're learning from you as well as you learning from us and our guest that we have. If you'd like, and I would, in the program and the episode, to hit follow and follow it, share it, so that if you have others that you think might have something that they can learn from the podcast, for them to share it also. And then, of course, react. That way I know how you're receiving the guest, how you're receiving the information, and what we should do and what would be better off, or what we should maybe stay away from and not do. It kind of like steers the way that we're going. Hello, Georgetta. And that way it steers us towards I guess working as a team and I consider that the viewers are the team. You're not spectators, you're us. And we're all working here together to get down to the answers and to teach everybody else about what's going on. That being said, with the metaphysics, it's a real science. It's true. It's real. It's factual. It's not pseudo. It's not fictional. It's not something that we've imagined. And, oh, those psychics, or oh, those metaphysics. No, it's the real deal. There's been a lot of studies that's been done, like say on crystals, like water crystals, or even on snowflake crystals, where they put them in the petri dishes, and they would talk to them like, "Hello, how are you doing? I love you." Just continuously giving this positive energy feed towards these crystals and these water molecules, and they would be more conformed. They would be perfect in their geometry, or they would be perfect in all aspects. But then there were other ones where they would take the same exact element. Hey, Tammy. Hey, Chicky. And they would put put them also in another petri, and they would speak to them. I hate you. I can't stand you. And they would continuously bombard that element in that petri dish with negative energy and toxic energy. Then when the scientists, they went and studied these, like I said, the one that was fed positive energy and positive feedback, it was formed. It was clearly that there was a difference between those that received the positive energy and the ones that received the negative energy. They didn't properly form, or they may have had like a residual elements that didn't like the bottled water. Sometimes they would see almost like a residual, like a, how much you even call it, like a gelatinous type texture to it. I mean, it just they wouldn't actually form what they needed to form. They did the same thing with plants. They had, and you can see a lot of those if you want to. And anything that I say, fact check me, and you're going to see that it's true. And you'll see a lot of these on YouTube where they had plants. And they set one plant up here, and this plant was given continuous positive affirmations. They were both fed the same food, the same water, the same lighting, the same environmental elements, the same conditions in every way, shape, or form, identical pots, soil, and everything. And one plant was told, I love you. You're such a beautiful plant. You're a fantastic plant. I want the best for you, and was given continuous positive. But the other plant was told, I hate you. You're so stupid. You're so ugly. And as you can guess, the one that was fed the positive energy, even though they had the same nutrients, etc., the one that was fed the positive energy grew. It became stronger. It was greener. It was more plush, and it thrived. The one that was fed the toxic energy and everything, I mean, it started getting yellows within it. The roots itself, when they took it apart, the roots were withered. It itself, it was drooping down and stuff. So obviously, we have the ability to interact with the world around us. There's no denying it, that we have that ability. And now the scientists have proven this throughout generations. The Druids, they knew what they were doing. The Celts, they knew what they were doing. There's, I think, a bad habit in science these days, and has been for a long time. It's like manifest destiny. They try to go to different places that they want to basically take over, whether it be the land, like a lot of the Europeans did to the Native Americans, or even if it's, say, the frontier of science or such. They want to try to subdue the amount of knowledge and the wealth and the technology and the civilized nature of these different cultures that they want to basically brush aside. They don't want us to take them seriously. A lot of that has been done, and I think that has been done with a lot of the pagan and the Druid and the different cultures that we've had. They've basically kind of been dubbed as savages, and nothing could really truly be further from the truth. And I think I'm going to read a quote by Nikola Tesla. And with this quote, Nikolai, you guys are like right across that, but he says that every being is an engine. And actually, I'm going to have to pull it up on this one because it's not pulling up exactly the same. I see you guys talking through it. Nikolai Tesla, my upgrade your cloud storage. And I really should do that. I'm kind of dropping the ball on upgrading to the cloud, but yeah, eventually I'll upgrade to the cloud. Anyway, I actually think I'm a little bit further along on that one. But Tesla went ahead and he explained to us that every element and everything that there is, yes, Dr. Emoto's water experiment, exactly. That's exactly the one that I was referring to on the crystals. Nikolai Tesla, he explained that everything is vibration. And he proved it way back when. He proved that it was vibration. In 1898, Nikolai Tesla had this little gadget. It was an invention that he created. I assume it would be probably about the size of maybe a cell phone, because they say that he kept it in the breast pocket of his jacket. And what it did is it created vibrations. And he felt that everything, if you could get to the frequency of that, that we could control that, or we could break it apart, and that everything was frequency. So he and an assistant that he had took this little bitty gadget that he had, and he was within a steel building in New York, and he kept raising the frequency of this device. And after a certain period of time, they heard a crack. And he asked his assistant, what was that? And they didn't really know. So most people would stop, but not Tesla. He raised the vibration even that much more, and they heard another crack. So that point in time, I guess he pretty much knew what was going on, and he grabbed a hammer and he busted up that device that he had created for vibrations, knowing that what he had done was his goal, was he had reached the frequency of the steel beams of that building. He always felt if you can reach the frequency of whatever matter it happened to be, that you can take apart and you control that matter. Everything is matter. Something he was, on a side note, something that he wasn't aware of at that time was he created an earthquake. And this can all be looked up. He created an earthquake in the area through a device that, to me, I think it was probably about the size of one of our cell phones. Now, that should tell us the extent of how powerful frequencies and vibrations are. Tonight's guest that we have, she's a fantastic lady, and she has not one, it's Dawn Singleton, and she owns Seraph by the River and Sterling Seraph. Sterling Seraph is in Bridgewater Falls, and Seraph by the River is in downtown Hamilton. And some may remember that she had a shop also in Mason, Ohio. Her shops, if you've not been to them, if you are local to the area, I really do encourage you to go. They're fantastic places. She has a one in Sterling Seraph. She has a fantastic apothecary, a diverse library. I could spend the rest of my life probably reading various things in her library. Crystals, stones. And the employees that she has there, they have a wealth of knowledge. If there's something, whether you're beginning or whether you're someone that has, a lot of, experience in the metaphysical or tarot, whatever it is that you learn, they're still probably going to have something to teach you and to tell you about. Tonight, we're going to discuss, and we're kind of going to go back through and revisit what we went through last episode. I decided, starting at the beginning of the year, we would try to learn how to cleanse ourselves of any residual problems that we've had throughout the year of last year and even our lives, and get a good start out with this new podcast and with the beginning of the new year and for our lives, by learning how to cleanse ourselves in all of our mind, body, and soul, and then to start getting ourselves prepared for whatever it is that the universe is bringing our way, or by law of attraction that we might be bringing our way through the universe. We're going to go through like bathing, crystals, anointing, and a few different items like that used to be in many ways an ancient knowledge that was common. To some degrees, it may have been more esoteric to others, but it's a knowledge that I think has been lost, that we need to start delving back into, and we need to start sharing to others. From Northern Kentucky. Hey, thank you. I would really appreciate that. I'm kind of from Northern Kentucky. Cincinnati basically is Kentucky, and Dayton is also. So yeah, I probably have been through your area quite a few times. The store's name is Sterling Seraph. That one is in Bridgewater Falls, and the other one is Seraph by the River, and it is in Hamilton. I think technically they might both have a Hamilton address. And we will be giving the links to those and providing those in the bottom. That way you can follow through. And she does do online. She has clothing, jewelry, anything that you might possibly need with that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let Dawn come on, and we're going to let her tell us who she is. And she can go in a little bit more in depth what she has to offer and what her stores offer us. Hey, lady, how are you doing tonight?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Actually, I seen her hat earlier in the green room, but she's already pulling in the cosmic vibes for us tonight. It's just bringing it in.
Yeah.
So tell people about some of the about both of your stores and kind of give us an introduction to yourself.
Well, my name's Dawn Singleton. I am Ohio born and raised in this area and spent a lot of adult life living in Texas and came back here in 2005. And I felt like I was given a purpose to come back here. I remarried here and started a new life with my son. And I was working in insurance. And
Hmm.
there's times when the universe just says, like, okay, we must make you uncomfortable so that you will go forward and move and do something different. I thought that I was doing a really good job at that job. And a friend of mine that was working there with me became my manager. And she just kept saying, why are you here? Like, you need to go do something else. And at that time, I was working 5 days a week in the insurance industry. And the weekends, I was moonlighting at the flea market because I took an art metals class. I'm trying to show you art metals class at Lakota High School in the 90s. And
That's
I
really
enjoyed
fun.
making jewelry. So I would go to work wearing my jewelry. People would say, like, oh my God, where did you get that? I made it. Make me one. So I started making jewelry for people, selling it at the insurance company on my breaks and before work and after work, staying and showing them my jewelry. And at one point, I started making more money doing that on my break than what I'd done the whole 8-hour shift doing something I didn't love. So I decided to take that skill set and go have some fun at the flea market and start selling my jewelry there.
So the
I did that
universe, yeah, it set that
for
up for you.
2 years, working in the insurance industry and like moonlighting in a flea market on the weekends. After I'd done that for a while and I was making pretty good money at the flea market doing what I loved, and I was kind of living for the weekend just to go work and do my labor of love that was bringing me abundance and joy. I told my husband one day, I said, I think God's telling me to walk away from this job. And he's like, no, we need your income. And I said, if God brings me that income during the week without this job, can I just do what I love? And he said, well, we'll talk about it when that happens. The first weekend I had walked away from that job, I had put in my 2-week notice, very, respectfully gave them a nice letter and thanked them for every opportunity they had given me. And offered my assistance if they needed me longer than 2 weeks, but I'd really like to go in 2 weeks. And they, received the letter very graciously and said, you know what, you can go ahead and go. We'll pay you for the next 2 weeks. So that kind of gave me a quick kickstart financially to then sew it into my business that I was going to do on the weekends, and started doing craft shows and art shows and selling the jewelry. And that just kind of started leading into other things where I could
Foot
play
forward.
with soap making, painting, making bath bombs, making oils, and just having some fun and getting to play and getting paid to play. And at one point, I kept finding myself being met with these challenges where people would challenge me to be the bigger person. So I always kind of turned the other cheek and rose to that occasion. And at one point, I was told by the manager of Bridgewater Falls, you know, why don't you get a shop here? I wanted to do their farmers market. And he said, well, why not open a storefront here? And I thought about it for a while and I said, well, I'm sure your rent's really expensive. And he goes, you're talking to the man who decides what you pay. And before I went to talk to him that day, I started getting angel
Thank you,
numbers,
Brandy.
started getting
So
angel
the
numbers.
universe was
And I
letting you know
couldn't,
that you're on the right path.
thank you, Brandy. And I didn't know what the angels numbers were. They were just hitting me. And I heard a message when I caught my, sorry, left to right. I'm trying to figure that out. My
I do
spiritual
that
ears. You know, when you hear something in your head or you see something in your mind's eye, call it my spiritual eye, my spiritual ears. Let me hear when man or woman tries to shut the door in your face, turn down, I'm going to tear down a wall.
too.
And there was an opportunity that I was going to talk to him about. And for some reason that door closed, and I found out it was some, sketchy jealousy vibes. Somebody didn't want me there, and they were trying to
Protection.
shut that door and manipulate the situation to be what they wanted for me. But what they wanted for me was not what spirit wanted for me. And as I heard that, and he's telling me, I'm sorry, I can't give you that spot this year, I remained really calm, very positive. And he's like, yeah, I really like you. Why don't you open a shop here? We went to look at the shops. He ended up giving it to me for less than, like for $750 a month for flea market rent. He said, what are you paying at the flea market?
Wow.
And I told him, and he said, so that averages out to this much a day. So if you had 30 days a month to sell, not 2 days a week, this is what you would pay, $750.
Yeah. That's
These
that's
are
the
rents that are
universal
like five and a half
limitation.
thousand dollars, $6,000 a month. I got it for 750. So when I talk about prosperity and abundance, I always tell people don't just look at, how many dollars is in your hands.
Right.
Always look at the gas mileage, your health. If you're not paying a doctor, that's abundance. If you're not having to fill up your gas tank or do vehicle repairs, that's abundance. Your
Yeah.
cup is staying full and overflowing. You're not having to give it to all these other things that are draining. So when he gave me that extremely reduced rent, it was abundance. And I couldn't say no at that point. Every fear had been dispelled. And I was like, I can't say no. And we opened up September 1st in 2016.
And that's a fantastic area. That's right in
It
behind my dad,
is.
actually. You could ask for a better area. I mean,
No,
it's
it's clean. It's
beautiful
well
shop.
potted and planted and decorated. It's a very nice outdoor shopping mall. And I started out, modestly coming from a flea market to that brick and mortar and getting to do all the things that I enjoyed doing in high school that mom told me, don't do that. That's not nice. That's not what Christians do. So like playing with crystals, wearing patchouli, wearing bizarre, unique clothing that
See,
I
we all
felt
have a lot of that
self-expressed in.
Pentecostal situation, don't we?
Oh yeah. Like my first allowance that I earned, I bought worry dolls, and she was like, "What are worry dolls?" I mean, you would have thought I brought voodoo dolls home and was jabbing them with pins, but it's allowed me the opportunity to get paid to play. And I did it for 2 years by myself, and then started bringing employees in. And as I started getting introduced to other people and their cultures, and noticing that everything that I had always done intuitively
Mhm.
was magical, higher vibrational things, higher vibrational ways of being that were almost turbocharging my path and putting me right where I needed to be. Everything was in divine alignment. And I always wore the patchouli in high school. I still to this day have girls that I went to high school, women now, messaging me, grandmas, and saying, I remember you on the school bus. You were so weird. You had amethyst and patchouli in your pocket and you smelt weird. But I just thought you were cool, but I couldn't tell you then. And now it's kind of trendy. So everybody's coming to me now. The same women that like didn't understand those things are now coming to me with their daughters and granddaughters. Like my granddaughter loves crystals. And I'm like, hey, I remember you.
I
So
think
it's
that old
fun.
souls really stick out in people's memories. I really
Yeah.
do. I think that their soul identifies that there's something going on here that's older and more solid, maybe has longer roots than what I at this age can really understand yet.
Hmm.
I had to grow
Well,
into understanding it.
and as I started playing with the herbs, and I was obviously, let's see, where are we? Making jewelry with crystals in it, started learning more about the crystals because people would come in and say, oh, isn't that crystal for this? Or is that crystal for that? And I didn't research
Oh,
the
that's good.
crystals. The crystals just kind of told me what they were. Um, I just knew. I had an internal knowing. And people would say, what book did you read that from? Or where did you learn that? And I'm like, I just know.
Yeah.
I've never been one to pick up a book and read it. I can read, but I much rather live organically and learn all of these things organically and by my own intuition and what the things tell me they are or what I need them to be. So,
I agree with doing that. I've noticed that there's various books and stuff where I've read, and you can get a lot of contradictions. I mean, one
oh
person
yeah,
thinks this, one person thinks that, and I think you have to sometimes feel your way. And those items,
exactly.
I don't know if I do think that our DNA, without question, holds the memory and stuff of our ancestors, but I think it holds a lot of memory. So you've probably connected in with that too. You just knew that you
Right.
knew.
But with speaking on herbs, finding out that patchouli was one of the prosperity herbs that I had been wearing my whole life, I was like my social, like if you do numerology and you look at your social as you're looking at other numbers, your social security numbers, how you make your living, like your whole economy, your whole value financially in dollars is in that. And number 8 is like my almost my whole social is all eights. So I always call it
Wow.
crazy eights. But eights is a vibrational number that vibrates with prosperity and abundance. So I guess I was destined with the Midas touch. I don't know. But some
And
of the
science
herbs,
has proven that everything is math.
yeah. Now,
No, there's
would
no
you like me to
distance.
start talking about some of the herbs? We can start going into herbs and what I like to use personally, or
Actually, I think that might be a really good idea. A lot of people, I mean, sometimes, and like when you mentioned, like with the parents or various people, Lisa Marie Presley passed away, huh? Cardiac arrest.
oh my
Wow.
goodness.
I
She's
just
with
came across
Elvis
this
now.
story. And actually, he is my aunt's cousin. Elvis Presley was, but
Really?
I mean, you have
I'm
like a
related
lot
to
of
Elvis too, so we must be related.
Hey, see, we're soul sisters in a tons of different ways. I
Mhm.
dig that. Yeah, I think there's been, like we were saying, like I want to dismiss this whole pseudo in front of pseudoscience. Like psychic is not pseudoscience. Herbs are not pseudoscience. The pharmacology industry itself is just it rules the world. So that pretty much puts aside any argument that herbals are not a legitimate science. Um, waters, all the different things like that. I really do. I think that we're reaching an era where people are turning back around, like what you were mentioning earlier about even just the cloths that you wear. Make sure
Mhm.
you don't have the synthetics and have something that's really of a good vibration and stuff. Um, yeah, talk about the herbals if you don't mind. Share with us, your
So
knowledge that you have about different herbals and
one
even
thing
the
that
materials.
one thing that I like to dispel is what you're saying. Like we have to tear down the stigma of working with the things that were put here for us to work with. The old ways, the crystals, the herbs, everything of the earth. And a lot of times where I feel the most friction with that is like Bible believing Christian believers who want to tell me it's new age, it's devil worshiping, I get my healing from God. Well, if by your own admission you believe God created the universe and everything within it, it's in that book, wouldn't you believe that God's energy is in the things that God created, just like your mother's energy is
Absolutely.
within you? It's science.
Absolutely.
And when you
I
start
think we're
thinking
getting
about
into a
that,
lot of that, just like I mean, just like myrrh.
mhm,
That you will see so many contradictions. Like, have you read your Talmud? Or the Old Testament, and have you read the New Testament? You do know that they're
mhm,
anointing in there. You are wearing a prayer cloth that is anointed.
yeah.
I mean, there's
Well,
so many of these things that yeah, there's a lot of contradictions.
and touching base on the herbs, everything has megahertz of energy, like you were mentioning. And frankincense and myrrh and gold were given to the baby Jesus. So even if we only look at it as parable, allegory, um, a correlation to help us understand the deeper meanings. Like we're all babies and we're here to understand the deeper meaning. Hi, Robin.
Hey, Robin.
That is my right hand
Thank you
woman
for
right there.
sharing. That will give me, actually, with
So,
Robin saying that, I want to remind you guys, if you do like what you're learning, and you'd like to share it with somebody else, share the podcast and hit like and let us know if we're going in the right direction for what you want to hear.
so those things that were in the king's medicine cabinet, the king baby Jesus, that's what the wise men gave him. They were wise. They weren't
That's
stupid.
right.
So what they gave
Thinking of
him
this.
was one of the highest vibrational resins, frankincense and myrrh. These are the highest vibration. If you take and measure the megahertz of energy within peppermint or lavender and frankincense and some of the other essential oils, they all have megahertz of energy. Everything in the world that is of organic origin, you're going to be able to test how much energy it has.
Look,
And people even that
this is
use
proven
herbs
science too.
and essential oils for healing and that kind of work, they will tell you that compared to lemon, lemon is a great detox. It's a great detox and a mood lifter. But what else does it do? It can maybe help some blemish on the skin, but I call that my small guns. And the cost of lemon essential oil is relatively inexpensive
Yes, it is.
compared to a much more expensive, rarer oil like frankincense or
Mhm.
myrrh. It's very expensive in comparison. Yes, rose
Yes, and
oil. And
rosemary.
rose was used in the temple in the Old Testament when they built the temple. And so these oils, rose,
Saladon,
melissa,
actually, when he came,
frankincense,
he took back over the
those are
temple
the
because
higher
there's so much.
vibrational.
Yeah, and
I'm
when he
sorry.
took back over the temple, when and it was when the Muslims, and we try to say this religion, that religion, but when they were able to conquer and took over the temple because there was so much bloodshed, he actually had the entire temple washed top to bottom with rose oil. And
Yeah.
the ancients understood the value
And
of
rose
these
was
oils.
love. Why, if we love other human beings, would we want to, murder or kill anything uh, for its blood?
Right?
So to wash the temple in rose and to line the temple with rose wood, we were raising the vibration of love within that temple. And I always call frankincense the big guns when we're talking about healing with essential oils and things, because there is proven science that frankincense helps with dementia, cancer, um, all kinds of things, bruising, eyesight,
Bruising is
anti-wrinkle.
amazing.
It is a cure-all, beat-all. It does all the things.
Antivirus,
And
antioxidant,
it's a
yes.
higher vibration versus the lemon oil. Lemon has its purpose, but it'll do very little compared to what frankincense will do. And the vibration in lemon is a much lower frequency. Didn't know if you knew that.
Then
And the essential oils, of course, are super concentrated versions of the natural herb, the dry herbs, the fresh picked herbs. So it's just much more compact and super concentrated. But when we talk about manifesting wealth and prosperity and abundance, there are some things that you can use herb wise in different ways to help bring that abundance and prosperity into your life. One of those things I love to use is alfalfa.
yeah,
And alfalfa is great for not only money magic, but good luck. Like if you're going gambling, put a little, get a little mojo bag, or a um, little pouch
yeah,
and a charm bag, and put some alfalfa in there so that you have a little gambler's luck and that it'll bring that good fortune of winning to you. Basil is another one.
I used
We
to love
we
that.
sometimes have this misunderstanding that money equals happiness. People say like money doesn't buy happiness. Well, the right kind of money does. And when you raise your vibration and it's not filthy lucre, you didn't get your money by nefarious means. You didn't go rob somebody for it or trick them into giving you their fortune or steal it from those who are less fortunate. When you get your money by honest, earnest, loving means, your vibration of that money, it's going to work much better for you. Basil will help with
Mm.
happiness and joy. So when we talk about like the heart chakra,
I
that
was going
is
to say
like,
that's aligned with the heart chakra.
yeah, if your body's the temple, what's the throne? Well, I say it's the heart. And growing up in a Christian household as a child, people always say, put Jesus in your heart. I always say, well, what they're really saying is put Christ's love in your heart, the Christ consciousness. Are you working among your chakras to raise that vibration to that of Christ consciousness? Are you giving? Are you loving? Or is it sacrificial love? You will give to somebody just because you feel good loving on somebody in that way and you have the ability to love on them that way. Or are you doing it in a greedy way with, ulterior motive? And if
Yeah,
so,
ulterior.
then you're acting in a anti-Christ
Then you're not
consciousness.
really giving, you're taking.
hmm So, how does that love and money go together? Well, if you are opening your chakras to the right energy, the Christ consciousness, the vibrational love, what you're doing is you are manifesting the 7 heavenly virtues among your 7 main chakras. And I don't know why nobody's ever put this together, but this kind of
That
came
is
to me
also
in a
alignment.
dream. And if you're working in antichrist consciousness, not Christ consciousness, but antichrist consciousness, what you are going to do is manifest 7 deadly sins.
Hmm.
So we say we're green with envy. Well, envy is in the heart. Are you envious? Your heart chakra represents green. So that green representing money or charity, like the love chapter, biblically, we always talk about, love
Yes, it does,
and
Tabitha.
charity go hand in hand. When you feed the hungry, when you clothe the needy, when you give of your heart, that's charity. You're not doing it for personal gain. You're doing it just
Tabitha
out of
made a
abundance and
statement
love.
that the heart resonates way outside of the body, and it really does.
Mhm.
If you look at everything, I mean, even the human body, the energy torus, it's kind of like shaped like an apple, so to speak. And I kind of
Mhm.
think of the center of it as being like a core, like your apple core is the core of your body. And the energy torus does resonate like a completely, I guess you can't see outside the camera.
Yeah.
It resonates like an apple shape around us. And here's our core. And I really do. I believe that the heart
It,
itself, with it being the core, does
it's like
resonate through that energy torus
that
that we
little
feel.
light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Like literally,
I like
that
it.
love will be exploding from your whole aura, your whole body. Yeah, it doesn't just stay right here. But so when
I'm
we're
so
working with
tempted to
basil,
have
we're
you
bringing
tell
in that
about your
happiness.
angel visit.
What?
Since you mentioned that, I'm almost tempted to have you tell about your angel visit.
Well, maybe we can get to that if we have enough time.
We will.
Juniper is another one. Juniper berries. I love that one for prosperity.
And that's a reason why a lot
And
of accounts and stuff use the juniper.
yep,
Yes.
it is very plentiful. I tell people, one thing when you're working toward prosperity, it is a misunderstood myth that you have to invest a lot of money to work in those higher vibrational things. When people come into my shop all the time, they're like, I want to work for prosperity. And they will like have a handful of stuff and bring it to me and say, what of this do I need to work for love? What do I need to work for prosperity? I basically take everything out of their hands and I go and set it down
Names.
and like, all you need is you. You don't need any of my stuff.
The
But we as
intention.
human beings like to own things, hold things. We are standing on the biggest crystal called Earth. And all these crystals are within the earth. And if we would go ground ourselves and earth ourselves and stand barefoot on the grass, we don't need to buy any crystals ever.
Grounding
You're
is a
doing
very
all the work. You're taking in all that energy from the ground where all these things lie.
and
The
it
plants are
cleanses
growing
too.
on this earth. The crystals are in the earth. We don't need to buy any of them. They're all here for us to just stand there and tap into it.
And
But
Shaman
some of us
Cooper
like
said
to
that the
touch the
natives
things.
use a lot of juniper for
Oh yeah,
various things.
yep. Cinnamon. Cinnamon is about
I
getting quick
use
success and basically, I would say almost a spirit of vocation. Like if you're wanting to have an deity work with you, you can work in calling in that cinnamon to whatever you're doing. I put a little cinnamon in my. I'll show you. This is my master jar, and this is my master money
mhm.
oil that I make. And I put all the things in my master jar: honeysuckle, orange. Uh, I put basil in here, like all the things. And my
Now,
crystals
do you
and
use
cash
that for
money
the purpose
threaded.
of anointing different items, or what are you using this for? I have different, I
Um,
have mine, but I use mine for various, it depends on
yeah.
what it is that
So,
I'm doing that I use it for.
like, this is a master root that I put in here, which is about
Hmm.
control. And some
Okay.
people think, what in the world would you put a master root in your money oil for? Well, to me, we if we get $1 million and we don't know how to have control and master our money and our finance,
Absolutely.
we're going to have it flowing through our fingers because we have not yet learned how to master that money and let it work with us. So, what I do with this oil is, like, in the store, I bottle them up into little roller balls, and
Okay.
I have gold
I
and
seen that in
silver.
your, I saw that in
Yeah,
some of your rumors. Yeah.
I have real gold and silver, some crystals. So I have all the elements in here that I work with for this oil. And I make these little roller balls, which is a miniature version of it.
Hmm.
And so they smell wonderful. I use essential oils and natural herbs. This one, get the roller
And
ball
then have
going.
you
This
put your hand
one,
behind it and put it up to the, so it
yeah,
can
yeah.
focus a little bit better. Okay. So it's, oh, okay. And your
This is my
prosperity.
prosperity.
Okay. I thought that's
And
what it's saying.
yeah,
Okay.
so you can wear it as a perfume, anoint yourself with it. This is your receiving hand. So I will anoint my receiving hand. Everything's kind of backward on this camera, but I will anoint sometimes my receiving hand to receive it. But also, I do what other people don't, and I anoint my giving hand because I want to give abundantly. I want to give
That is key.
charity from the heart and know how to wisely be charitable.
That is
You can
key. A
give
lot of
money
people don't
unwisely
realize
and
it.
help people,
It
but
has
you're
to
really
be a
harming them.
current.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like feeding a stray animal or a wild animal. If you're feeding the wild animals, you think you're helping, but what you're doing is not teaching them to hunt for themselves. They'll never learn the skill set if you do it for them. It's kind of like teaching your children how to earn money and spend it. It's a skill set, and we all need to learn it. But honeysuckle is a
I
great
was going
one
to ask, what's
for.
the honeysuckle? I've
I'm
not
sorry.
used it. I said, what are you using the honeysuckle for?
That is in my oil. I
And
put the honeysuckle in the oil. It is an attraction herb.
attraction,
It
absolutely.
attracts
Okay.
prosperity. And also, it's great for working with the Fae, if you like to work with the Fae.
I was going to say, because with me being Druid, um,
Yeah.
honeysuckle is something that was, yeah, it's very common and used in thistle and different various botanicals. So I was wondering what it was you were doing with the honeysuckle.
I put it in my oil. But also,
Okay.
in
And
the summertime,
attributes.
when the
Okay.
honeysuckle is abundant, I will
Yes.
go collect in my yard. We have honeysuckle everywhere. You go pull up to a McDonald's, and there's this like trashy half a lot next to the McDonald's that has like old cinder blocks and rubble. But there's these happy little honeysuckle plants and
Live
bushes just
harvest.
growing. You can go prune those. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Just ask the plant before you harvest and just
Absolutely.
say, may I please take some of this honeysuckle to use for my abundance? And just close your eyes and meditate with it for a minute. And when you feel in your heart that you're at peace with it and that the honeysuckle is there for you and you feel good about what your intent is, then go ahead and respectfully prune some of that honeysuckle. And you can make smudge bundles out of it, or smoke cleansing bundles, to be more respectful of political correctness and proper terms. But
Yeah, not appropriating. Now, a lot
yeah,
of people may think it's strange, and actually, we had talked about it earlier with Brandon. I just watched a podcast that he had on Bigfoot and the bunny. Um, a lot of people may go, "Wait a minute, what do you mean asking permission?" That's something with me. I agree with that and believe in that too. Um, any Before anyone tries to think that that's a pseudoscience, no, actually science has proven without a shadow of a doubt. They have went to the Amazon, they have placed different sensors and various pieces of equipment on the trees, and they have found out that, for an example, when they ran a saw, trees that heard a saw, they knew what was going on, and they sent out the pheromones of fear. So they were communicating with each other what was going on. The same thing was done with grasses. grasses that were walked on, they were able to test the hormonal levels of the grass. And as people walked, they were intelligent enough, blades of grass, were intelligent enough to guesstimate to each other and communicate to each other what direction this person might be getting ready to travel, across them. So there's obviously some sort of an intelligent communication ability within plants, botanical plants. Now, I believe in animism, so I do believe the trees, the plants, the rocks, all of this, but there's obviously an intelligent communication. And to me, whether it be a human, whether it be an animal, or like you're saying, a botanical, just like you said, before we just go and just grab it up and rip it out of the ground, which is pretty much what happens all the time, you wouldn't want anybody to just take from you without asking, let
Right.
alone yourself.
Good manners
I
is
do
everything.
think that you have to ask. And once that happens, then at the same time, you're also creating a balanced, and it's a giving and a
An
taking.
equal exchange of energy. An
Exactly. It's a
equal
circle.
exchange of energy.
Yeah, you're not just taking. Yeah, so when she's saying to ask, it really is part of the circle of life. You ask.
Yeah. And that's what our indigenous people here in this continent did. They
Yes.
asked for permission, they respectfully used every part and honored that animal, honored that herb, that plant. And that's all we need to do, is just be respectful and polite,
The
and give it
place.
the respect that it deserves. Mistletoe, that's another good one for good fortune and good luck. And you can use it in your money spells. Spearmint and wild mint. Mint is so abundant, it grows everywhere. Why would mint not be for abundance? It's
Yes.
like you can't kill it. You plant one little sample of mint, and the next
You can
summer,
be
your whole
invasive.
garden is overtaken. Your whole garden's overtaking. Calendula, that sun energy, that is good for a quick cash infusion. It's not a, it's not an abundance and prosperity herb that I personally like to use because it's quick
Oh,
cash. I want long, hard, steadfast cash. I want it to be there forever. It's not like
Tabitha
I'm
Meadows, she
desperate to
made a
pay a
really
bill.
good point. Tabitha Meadows said, could you imagine somebody walking up to you and grabbing a handful of your hair and just cutting it off?
Right. I think we'd be a little offended. Like, how
I
dare you?
need that.
Oranges. I had mentioned that I put oranges,
I see
dried
that. I was going to
oranges
ask you
in my
what that
oil.
was. It was orange. It's oranges.
Orange slices that have been dehydrated. I like to use orange because it has the element of the divine masculine. It is good for the fire element. And then it's also like the sun. Imagine that orange looking like a big round sun. It is a punch of fire energy. It is
And it's a
pure
very
joy
strong color
and
energy
essence
too.
of happiness and cheer mixed in with that abundant. And even when we look to the feng shui, a lot of people in feng shui will have a bowl of oranges in their
Yes,
home because it is good for prosperity.
it
Even
is.
the old, oh, what do we call those? The oranges studded with cloves,
Now I do
abundant,
that.
pomander balls,
I do the pump. Yeah, I do that. I do that.
pomanders, yes.
That actually, that's a very old Persian, like the Magi. Since you mentioned the frankincense, there, that
Mhm.
is actually one of the arcane arts that the Magi had. I mean, they did use the orange. As a matter of fact, when you look into like the different, I guess you call it the color, but it's like I was trying to
Yes,
read it.
Dina,
Yeah, I was gonna say, um, like you mean a
I
lot of
do.
there was like the royal houses. It was the House of Orange, and it was because they understood the power and they understood the attributes that the color and orange and the sun and all of it. It all is combined.
It's all connected.
It's not separated.
Right. And even in like in the 1950s, we all
Yes,
would
you
get
are,
like
and I do ask my vegetables.
the 1950s, the 1960s, us older women, we remember getting an orange and an apple in our stocking, our
Yeah,
Christmas stockings. So the funny thing is, when we think
I
about
walnut.
oranges signifying prosperity and wealth, oranges were something that was extremely, like from the Victorian era to the 1960s, extremely rare, to find in northern states in America, extremely expensive because they didn't have refrigerated trucks.
They didn't
They
have
didn't
the,
have
yeah,
ways to irradiate the fruit to make it not gas to over ripen the fruit before it could get to Michigan or Ohio. It was very like
the
luxurious
shelf life was
to have
really,
an orange.
yeah, it was.
And symbolic wise, you would gift your family an orange to say, like, I cherish you. And you would never eat a whole orange in the Victorian era. It was too precious. You would open the orange and share it and share that prosperity and that abundance and that blessing of the orange with the people in your family. So it was a very ritualistic ceremonial practice, which when we look to the practicality of it, to now it's signifying wealth and abundance for us. That just goes to show like you can in your own heart, your own mind, decide what represents what. If you don't know, you can't do any wrong. You just go with your heart and your own intuition, and you'll find yourself making correct decisions more often than not.
I think so. I think so. I think the spirit guides you.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
it's
Uh,
nature.
one
And
of the
we
ways,
are nature, we're part of nature. Robin mentioned, and you are right about that, Robin. It says they are placed on prayer altars. They are. Oranges. I don't. I don't know how many people that you see get their oranges and they love just shrivel up. Like, well, I planned on eating that, But I mean, there's just as far as health wise, there's a ton of benefits with oranges and stuff. But spiritually and gift wise, when you give something to an altar, so to speak, you're giving this to a being that understands the value of what it took for that item to occur. And I mean, there's no way that, when you present, say, an orange to a being, it's not going to fully understand, how seasonal that item is, what was taken to create that item, how much energy it took to create that item, now to move that item, to preserve that item, to share that item, not only just the wealth of nutrients and everything that's in that item. There's really a lot of invested in that. I can't stand to see people. I do not like when I see people, and you mentioned like you had worked somewhere. I've worked at restaurants, and then you look and you're like, you picking up their trays and their plates and you're taking it back to the kitchen and you're like, they didn't even eat any of this stuff. Like, look at all this stuff that nature put all this energy into, and I have to scrape it down here and give it away before I give it to
and
the
they're
dishwasher.
starving children in other countries. I have
Boom.
to stop my husband all the time because he'll look over at somebody's table and go, they wasted a whole order of onion rings. And I'm like, he goes, I'm half tempted to get it. And I'm like,
Not at
honey,
my
no,
table.
please. I own a business. I can't have that rumor started that they saw us eating the scraps of somebody we didn't know. But I'm going to get back real quick, if you don't mind, to how we use some of these herbs.
Yes.
I like to use them in ritual bath, a cleansing bath. You can just get like a little muslin tea bag, a
Yes.
reusable
And
tea
really, a
bag,
lot of
and put them in
religions
there.
do that. I mean, like the Judaism, they
Yep.
do the mitzvah, and in Buddhism, they do. I'm trying to think of the name of it. I even know the name of it. But the Buddhists, they do their cleansing and ritual baths. I mean, every religion does do the cleansing and with the bathing and the water. Water itself is ritual.
So with doing that in the bath, I always say put it in a bag because you don't want to clog your drain. Because the last thing you want to do is stop the cash flow or the water flow. They always say shut your bathroom door so that your money doesn't go down the toilet.
Yeah, those
So
photos of all
it's
those
like an
those
old wives'
flowers are
tale.
pretty, but they're not sensible.
Yeah. Anointing yourself. So you can literally anoint with the roller ball and wear it like a perfume and have those essences coming to yourself. Now, I make ritual candles also. Here's mine. Got the orange,
I love
the green for
pyromancy.
prosperity. I have other like things in here, elementals. Uh, I work with a lot of spirit animals too. So I have some coyote and deer and snake skin, my moldavite, pea flower tea, and just some other things, deer, alligator, bay leaf. but I love to put these things in to a ceramic dish and melt the wax so that these things don't get burnt, because
Yes.
I'm trying to save the bear claw and things from getting damaged, but I can replace this candle as needed. And when I do dress my candles, I will dress them with my prosperity oil for
Good prosperity.
prosperity,
Okay.
and dress them with herbs, like just rub a little basil on that or a little mint, whatever you have on hand that works for that abundance. Another thing I like to do is create tea, and a mint tea is lovely for bringing in that prosperity and internalizing that, drinking the tea, putting it
Yes.
in your
I do
bath, a nice
agree.
cooling bath. Let's see what else. You can use it in spell work. As we discussed earlier, carrying a little mojo bag with some mint, some basil, I do green hoodoo rice, green money
Oh,
rice.
yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And I love to collect old vessels, and especially the hands, because to me, the hands are what is coming into my hands. And I put my money rice in there, which has little bits, I don't know if you can see it, little bits of cash money.
Yeah, I
And with
do.
the green rice, I put a crystal in there
Now, I
and
do
create a
advise
money.
people if you do use items and stuff like that, I am a little bit different like this. I do agree that you should cleanse that item
Oh
before you
yeah,
use it, so
that's
you're
a
not leaving
given.
any
We
residual.
we don't we don't buy used clothing without washing it first, and then
There you go.
washing it before you wear it. You're going to do the same with all your vessels. If you find old apothecary jars, you don't know what was in that
Yep.
energetically or cleanliness wise.
Yeah, if
Uh,
you're making moon water or whatever, cleanse your jars and everything. Don't
yes,
just throw it in anything.
where are we going? Spell jars, little spell bottles.
Oh, that's
Let's see.
even cute too. I love that.
And
And that
these
you
are
use them
lovely
to the
little
stars.
charm or spell bottles that you, where direction I'm trying to, left is right, right is left. You can gift these. These are amazing to gift. Keep it in your purse, keep it in your car, keep it on your desk, or here, like in my shop, in your cash drawer.
And you're
Uh,
really giving people a really neat item, which is really cute, but you're giving them more than that item. You're actually giving them
exactly.
energy. You're giving them, whatever it
And,
is that you choose, whether it's abundance or prosperity or protection, you're giving them energy.
and I will put crystals and herbs in these as well. And sometimes tying on little charms, like little
Okay.
pentacles.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Tabitha Meadows said hands are creation. Yes, they are.
we were discussing the altars and the ancestors, working with our ancestors.
Mhm.
So if you're going to create an ancestors altar and you're going to ask for that generational wealth to come in through all of the lines in your family, you can get an- ancestor money or hell notes.
Hmm.
And if you can't find them, go online and find play money, or even you could go to Dollar Tree. Like these are just, you don't want to print them because you don't want to
Yeah.
be accused of doing something wrong. But these are
I
very
do.
realistic, and
I
I
will
use
make a
these
point to say
instead of
we
helmets.
do not. We advise you to not print them.
Yes, but this is
Now,
play money.
something that I
Believe
do
it or
with
not,
that,
this is
I
play
actually,
money.
with my ancestors, because I do a lot of genealogy, I actually do, I pull up when it's available, and I am kind of blessed that ours has been pretty well documented. I do bring up the identities of my ancestors.
Hmm.
I do try to keep that written or take it on something and actually focus on them themselves. So, yeah, that is a great idea.
But along with the herbs in your little mojo pouch or charm bag or bottle, you can put that colored rice in there. Rice is cheap and it's abundant. You can go to Dollar Tree and get a big old huge bag of rice for $1, and you can get the food color there for $1. And you can
Mhm.
create the green rice because the green color has that prosperity and abundance significance, as does gold in magic. And I like to add crystals to
I
it.
was going to ask,
So
do you do crystals and gems with those?
oh yes, absolutely. And also wearing those crystals and gems. So like I have peridot right
I
here,
love
peridot,
that.
peridot,
It's
they're
one of
both
my
correct,
favorite
those
stones.
terms. And I love to wear citrine, moldavite
Mhm.
to
I
bring
love
me to
citrine.
my most perfect path, where what spirit needs to align me with. But citrine is another one. They they call citrine. I love to use citrine generators in my crystal grids, where I just align the crystals to harness that energy and irradiate it through the room and my
Yes.
environment. They actually call citrine the merchant's stone. So I keep a raw piece of citrine like this in my cash drawer here. You can keep it in your wallet. You can keep it in your pocket to draw money toward you. Also, joy.
And that really, a lot of people may be still thinking like, oh, I can't believe they keep saying this. I mean, it really does happen. They have vibrations. They have the ability. They send out signals. They receive signals. Um, they act a lot like a satellite. Um, crystals, oh, speaking of, I mean, literally the way the satellites that we have up here, like that Elon Musk and everybody put up there, these satellites communicate with each other through atomic and crystal quartz abilities. I mean, we're literally taking, I mean, we can say as technologically advanced as we want to consider ourselves or civilized or whatever, none of this technological advances that we have would be possible if we didn't use quartz and we didn't use,
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of these different crystals and gemstones. I mean, that's the
It has
basis of our
to be used
technology.
in our technology.
Yeah, and the golds.
And speaking of gold, we have fool's gold pyrite.
Oh, some pyrite. Yeah.
So I love to
Isn't
keep
it
a
amazing
cube.
that that just naturally grows like that?
Yeah, I like to keep a natural cube of pyrite in my prosperity and abundance crystal bags, aventurine.
I love
This is
venturing.
another good fortune.
My
Like if you're
favorite.
going to the casino or you're going to get a lotto ticket,
You go
keep
into
this
the doctor.
keep this good fortune and prosperity and abundance crystal with you with that
When you
pyrite
go
and
meet that
citrine.
special someone, an interview, I can think of so many reasons to use that stone.
Garnet. I love garnet.
Garnet.
This one is a natural polished piece. And if I could shine a light through it, I don't have one here with me. It's on my phone. But this is the deepest red, like a burgundy wine.
I think it's
And
gorgeous.
garnet was it's one of the oldest prosperity crystals that we used. And it is now significant with generational wealth from inheritance, keeping that old money in the family. And
It's one of the stones that the Celtic, I mean,
yeah,
they really did amethyst, and I mean, they really
it was in
valued
the
the stones and
breastplate
they understood the attributes of them exactly. Even
in
when
the temple.
even at the Christian, the temples, the Talmud, the Jewish, I mean, there were reasons that they had particular stones in these breastplates before they could come to the altars. I mean, we think that they, were uncivil. They were, in a lot of ways, they were more civilized than we were.
More knowledgeable.
Yeah,
We're just a bunch of educated idiots now, right?
right. They dumbed us down.
So this looks like Bumblebee Jasper in the camera, but trust me, it's not. It's actually a super chatoyant tiger's eye. So
Oh,
it's really firing up with that gold tone in there. That is tiger's eye.
it really is.
But
How
if I didn't know it
spectacular.
looking on camera, I'd think somebody's holding Bumblebee Jasper.
Yeah,
But
with
this
the
is
lines.
tiger's eye. Great for prosperity and abundance. And then
Actually, Tom
also
Cooper was mentioning he loves the tiger's eye.
malachite is
I
another
love
one that I love to
malachite.
carry.
That's malachite's one of my favorite.
Yeah, it's really good. And last but not
Robin
least,
said it's one of her favorite too.
moss agate. Love
Yeah,
moss agate for abundance. That's one that I love to keep in my
Now, I
area.
know that you do crystal grids, and a lot of people that don't know about that, crystal grids basically, and some people may not know what sacred geometry is. Like Nikolai Tesla said, everything is 3, 6, and 9. You learn the value of those, you know the absolute key of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Crystal grids, they kind of work like the satellite and harnessing the energies of the crystals. You want to describe and tell us, about what this? Because I know you have those at your shop.
Yes, we do have the grid mats. We have them in fabric and in wood, and we
Oh,
even have
really?
some that are
Okay,
etched
nice.
selenite. and engraved on small slices of agate that you could use crystal chips. You don't have to spend a lot of money. We sell a whole scoop of crystal chips here for $3. And you can buy the tiniest crystals. Don't need to be big to work. The smallest crystal will hold a vibration the same as the larger crystals. But when we grid those crystals and set our intentions with those crystals and program those crystals, that's when they do the most work for us. But
when you do your grid though, do you like your center stone and stuff like that, do you usually choose one that is a larger
I
stone?
do. And typically I will use a generator only because I'm trying to figure out the direction of this.
Okay, so
It'll send the energy out into the room.
versus a round one, you're using the
Radiant, it'll like emit it out and up. So upward and outward, and just kind of directs that energy.
Like
kind
a
of like a cycle. So it'll come in and flow out. But going back to feng shui, a lot of times people talk about, plants and just that they're purely decorative or they make you feel good. But in feng shui, a lot of times they will put a nice pretty green plant or a money plant in the left-hand corner of the home. Like if you're standing at the front door, you want to go to your left-hand corner. So putting a water feature, water will flow. Money, where water flows, money flows, energy flows, money flows. It's a very easy principle. It's like flipping on a light switch. When you get it, you can't stop it. Your mind's always thinking like, I need money.
The abundance. It whatever your intent is that you want to focus on, that's what can flow your way. I mean, it may be more time with your family, or it may be maybe you want to work more on your athletic attributes, or maybe knowledge or something like that. Whatever that you put in that center, like what Dawn is explaining, that will bring that in towards you. And the centerpiece, like she's saying, it acts like a bring
Buddha fountain, our Buddha fountain, and that money is flowing in the Buddha fountain right here on top of our cash drawer, where we keep the citrine. So it's about being creative with how you set things up. You don't have to follow all the rules. It just has to make sense to you to help you keep in alignment with that energy flow.
Yeah, I do. I agree with that. I've
never read that in a book. It just made sense to me.
I think sometimes it does. A lot of the common sense does come into play with all of that. Now, when you do like your surrounding stones with your crystal grid, actually, I'm gonna have you pull up the picture of the crystal grid. We have a cover image of the crystal grid that you sent us. When you do yours and you have like your center stone, and you're saying that you usually use more of your antenna tower versus the round center stones.
The generator
stone.
I use a larger crystal in the center to act as the generator. And I will usually use quartz, and citrine is a type of quartz.
Okay, I was going to ask if there was a certain type of stone that you think is best in the center.
For prosperity and abundance, I always go for a citrine.
Now, if somebody wanted to do, say, a crystal grid for health, what would they put in the center?
I would put rose quartz in the center. It is a quartz, and yes, it's great for self-love and healing. And if I was using one for protection, I would create the grid with a smoky quartz in the center, and then work from there and figure out what my other protective crystals are, my other for prosperity money crystals are. So for the grid that we had the picture of and you had put up earlier, that one had garnet, selenite, black tourmaline, citrine, malachite, healerite. There's different crystals that were in there that work for that abundance.
My little brat here. Kimberly Horn asked, I think you're talking about organite. Actually, Robin Wright at Sterling Seraph makes those. She asked, what are those pyramidal pores with different elements in them? And they are made out of crystal and stuff. Yeah, that would be organite, which you guys do have that.
Robin talked about that last week on the show and she on the podcast, and she also makes the organite jewelry that you can wear as well as the pyramids to place in your home. She has a very good job with that.
Yeah, hers are very artistic.
They're gorgeous. I've seen so much organite in my life owning a metaphysical shop that I was never really impressed. I understood the science behind it, but it just wasn't my thing. I liked the natural things, but the way she incorporates natural beauty within it and puts the seashells and the starfish, she's not just buying plastic trinkets to pop in those. No. Everything has a megahertz of energy that she's adding into them. So it's really nice when she
spirit animals, and I mean, she's really doing a fantastic job.
Yeah,
she really is. Now, when you do, I say, like when you do your crystal grids and stuff, do you feel that there's like, I mean, do you think it's better off in the morning? Do you think it's better off in the evening? Is there a time period, or after meditation, or with meditation? How do you think is the best way to do it?
Sure, there is. And it really depends on who you're listening to and what they're trying to sell you on when the best time is. If you want to work with the planetary alignment, the moon phases, you want to work with Jupiter or Mars, figure out what's going on in that realm cosmically, and
yes.
and do your work based off that. You can also do days of the week. So each day of the week has a different representation.
So you are pulling in like a cosmological attributes with it.
Yeah, Kimberly, I'm sure at the end of the show, Deana can give you Robin's number, and she'd be happy to do a commission for you on the organite.
Yeah, and then Robin's posted it right down here.
Yeah, okay. I didn't see that part, but
you just now did it.
Okay. There you go. There you go. There's Robin.
I had a great aunt that made those. Oh my gosh. I mean, it was in the 70s when she was making them. And that's how I first learned about them. So I've always paid attention to them over all these years. And when I seen Robin's, I was just like, they're beautiful.
And we will be having a class like next Sunday here where I'm going to teach the beginning basics of working with crystal energy to help people that are not familiar with it but want to learn. You'll get a starter set of crystals. You'll get a journal, a crystal journal worksheet to create your own crystal journal on how you're working with them. And it'll teach you when you get those basic crystals, like how to begin, how to start, how to work with them, how to work with your chakras with the crystals and set your intentions. And then the next Sunday,
I'm going to say, tell us about your class. Like actually, you have quite a few really neat classes that you're doing.
Yeah, the next Sunday I'm teaching a sigils class. So it'll be setting your intention and creating those talismans and sigils to do the work. So sigils are also ones that you can create for prosperity, and you can engrave with a thumbtack on the candle before you seal it and create that sigil and engrave your candle with it and anoint it with oil to bless it and dress it, and then seal over it with the wax so that only you know it's there. And it'll do its work.
Like candle making or chiromancy, the art of candles altogether. I mean, that's that's a really deep subject in itself.
Yes, I've done candle readings for people, and I enjoy making candles for people. So the candle class.
I noticed your guys' classes do sell out pretty fast.
They do. So, we usually have a class up for 2 weeks and it's sold out.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, if you're interested in doing, I would probably jump on it pretty quick.
We have 2 candle classes coming up in February that are not sold out yet. So if somebody would like to get in on those, if you go to our Facebook page, we have the Eventbrite link. One is the Saturday before Valentine's Day. It's February 11th. We will do a penis. Can I say that on here?
Yeah, Felix.
Phallus and vulva.
Washington Monument.
The Little Richard, but it's not very little. It's a big, like 6-7 inch candle, and we will be dressing those and blessing those. And I don't mean putting clothes on them. We will be anointing them with oil and herbs and setting our intention and sealing wax over our sigils and engravings that we put into the candle for passion, romance, fertility, whatever the work is that you're wanting to do. Confidence. I mean, if you're lacking confidence in the workplace and you're in a male workplace where most men are running the show, get you a big old penis candle and drip it with red wax. And you light that bad boy every day before you go to work, and you say your little mantra, and you will be surprised how much confidence and power you walk into that room with the next day. It's
And some people may think that sounds silly, but if you go and you look at all of the um maybe I'll call it PowerPoints, but the different leading places that are across the entire world. I mean, example, the Vatican. The Vatican took the one that was from Alexandria, and what she's talking about. If you know what the Washington Monument is, it's your tall monoliths. We see those all over the world. We have the Washington Monument. I mean, it really is, and the reason why is it's it's the patrilineal, or it's the patral.
Big dick energy.
Yeah, exactly. I was trying to think of how to say it, but hey, that right there. It really is.
Out there.
Yeah, it really is. And what they're doing is they're harnessing that pretty much across the grid. You'll see them on ley lines and all these different areas. And she really,
ley lines is a whole other story.
Yeah, that's a whole nother podcast.
A whole nother episode.
Yeah, that's a different episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really does. I mean, tap into that energy. It does exist. You see a lot of everybody, and I do think that this is something that I see too many people do. And you'll see a lot of, oh, the goddess. But wait a minute, we have to have balance.
Gotta have balance.
Yeah, we have to have both. Yeah, I agree with that. And you're right.
I don't like it when people try to divorce my spiritual parents. I want mama and daddy together.
Yeah.
We can have the divine masculine and the divine feminine perfectly balanced. And isn't that the base of what's going on right now with gender fluidity and androgynousness? I mean, what we're saying is it's okay to be balanced.
Yeah, it really is.
It's okay to be balanced. It's okay to have a little bit of both. You mix it up in there.
We are starting to slowly, and even with a lot of, even scientifically, culturally, socially, philosophically, I think we are starting to find balance. And I think that right now we are going into an era that civilization in itself, globally, not just locally, globally, that we are going into an era that we're starting to find balance, in education, and just lots of, so much truth is coming to light and reality. And I think that's because and part of that, maybe it feeds itself, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it feeds itself, or maybe it's a self-fruition. It's going back into nature. And I think that nature is balance. I mean, I think that might be why we're gravitating towards nature more also, or maybe gravitating towards the nature is bringing us into balance. I'm not really sure, but it does seem like we're starting to find that.
Well, one thing I like to explain to people, especially of a Christian background, is the whole as above, so below, on earth as it is in heaven.
Yes.
So if the pattern for creation was set to us biblically, on earth as it is in heaven, or as above, so below, then the mama dog, the daddy dog, and we got a baby dog, right? That's our Trinity right there. Mama dog, baby dog, daddy dog, 3 in 1. So energetically speaking, with the goddess, the divine masculine, the divine feminine, wouldn't that be the same? We're tapping into a goddess and a god, and we are encompassing both of those energies together because we are the baby god.
Yeah, we can take, we can actually have all of those attributes within ourselves, because we're one. You have to create
a different way to look at the Trinity.
Tabitha said, we are all. Yeah, I do. I agree with that. She says, a phallic. Yes, the phallics. Take the harness of the phallics. Now we're all going to walk around with it. He's like, I got a little Richard on my.
Well, one of our jewelers, Charles Albert, actually worked with Keisha, the music artist. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's got dollar signs in her name. I think it's Kesha. I don't listen to her. Kesha. But when I was there, he was showing me her necklaces she designed, which are little penises, and they're gold.
My daughter does professional lighting for Bowery and stuff, so I know who that is.
They would probably do really well in my shop. He said he couldn't sell them, and I said in my shop they would sell.
They'll probably sell. Now, you know what?
So
Speaking of, can you remind everybody like where your shops are at, what's the name of your shops, and
yeah,
what sites that you have, and how they can reach out and contact you once, the podcast is over?
sure. So we have two shops in technically what's called Hamilton, Ohio. One is in the township, which is called Bridgewater Falls Shopping Center.
Mhm.
And that one is off of Princeton Road. The other one, and it's very convenient, right off the Regional Highway 129, which if you're going north and south on 75, take the 129 toward Hamilton, you're going to come right up to our shopping center. If you go 11 more minutes down that road, it becomes Main Street, which is where my other shop is in downtown Hamilton. And when I say downtown, I'm not talking about big city scary Hamilton or Cincinnati or Dayton. What I'm talking about is a little small hometown with a very artsy, fluid feel. It just
It's
feels
so
very
neat there.
cozy, very Norman Rockwell. And it's
It
made such
is.
a turnaround in the last 10 years. I'm super proud of Hamilton.
I go down. I was actually born in Hamilton, but yeah, I go down there for like the concerts and different things like that. It's
A
really
lot
neat.
of
It's a
community
lot of
events.
nice
It's
shops
beautiful.
downtown.
Great breweries, wonderful artisan shops. The pinball garage is a big deal here.
That's neat.
Yeah, everybody wants to go play pinball at the pinball garage. So
Now, what
there's a lot to
websites
see
do
and
you
do.
have that people can contact you through?
I'm sorry?
Like, what social media? What are your addresses, your names on social media, so they can reach out to you and contact you? And really, both of her sites. Something that we didn't go over is she has a lot of nice, very cool clothing in her downtown shop in downtown Hamilton. So
I
we
say that
can.
one's more of a hippie boho boutique
I was
with
gonna say it's very
metaphysical,
bohemian.
like metaphysical dressing on top of the salad. And then the other one is more of a witchy mercantile. So it's kind of like the back room witchy shop in the back alley, but it's in a really nice, luxurious outdoor
It
shopping
is.
mall.
The one in Bridgewater has a
Yeah.
fantastic apothecary.
Yes, we have a full apothecary, the best
A whole
apothecary I've
wall.
seen in all my travels. And
Yeah,
trust me, I've been from Salem to New Orleans. I've never seen anything like it.
I haven't.
So I worked really hard to build that apothecary. We also have a full tea apothecary. If you're wanting teas there, we have tea, the loose leaf teas you can buy, and the metaphysical library, which you mentioned earlier, an
Love that.
extensive collection of tarot and oracle, crystals, spell kits, anything you can imagine.
Yeah. It's a place that even if I have a tendency to do this. I'll go
Don't
in and
bring your
see.
Pentecostal aunt there.
Yeah, right.
Bring her to the Seraph by the river, and she'll love the clothing.
She'll love the clothes. Actually, she wears most of the clothes, all that. Yeah, when I go to some of the libraries and stuff, and this even an actual library, I will tell Spirit, take me where I need to go. And this might be the psychic or whatever. I will literally see a light, like light on a book, or I will see a book light, and I'll know that's what I'm supposed to read. So that you guys have so much there. You can discover new arts and arcane arts and esoteric arts that is something that you've not learned yet. I mean,
And we
I
don't
really
do
do.
a lot of
From the
metaphysical
basics to
shops.
people that know a lot is really available in your shops.
Yeah, a lot of metaphysical shops just mass produce wholesale from like two major companies, Keops or Azure Green. You guys can go onto Azure Green and order that stuff for yourself. Now, once I order it wholesale and I mark it up, you're going to get it for about the same price. So what I like to do is do a lot of the handcrafting ourselves. We make our rice in house. I don't order that from Azure Green. We have a spell jar bar where you can come in and build your own spell jar right there with the assistance of my employees. If you don't know what you're doing, we'll teach you. And that's a kind of a fun little activity. A lot of the teenage
That's
girls
something you're not going to get
like to
somewhere
go.
else.
No, a lot of the teenage girls love to come in and they only have $5 or $6 to spend and then get a $1 crystal and a $5 spell jar bar. Do it yourself, and they have a little fun activity, and it's really nice. We show them how to do that, and some of the other things that you can do there would be shop the crystals, the jewelry. We have the extensive selection, like I said, of tarot and oracle. But if you go to Seraph by the River, it's a softer, gentler vibe with a nod to the metaphysical. So we had a mother and her little 3-year-old come in here today, and the little girl was going to a birthday party, and the kid likes crystals. And she said, the little kid likes crystals, but her parents are Lutheran. I don't think she'll be appreciative of us bringing her stuff from the shop, but we love your shop. So I ended up gifting a little amethyst necklace, which I thought it's pretty benign. I mean, we wear diamonds and wedding rings, and people literally die over the diamonds. Why not an amethyst? It's in the
I think
Bible.
it's funny, like even when you read some of these different, no matter what religion is, but usually this one is the one. And I think the reason why is because you can control people that
Exactly.
don't know the power, people that are
That's
fear.
it.
Yeah, when people are existing in the level of fear, they're easier to control. People are existing in ignorance, they're easier to control. There's a lot of it. But when you take and you look at these different texts, like a salt covenant. Okay, a salt is actually a
Oh, yeah.
crystal. Okay, well, they're
Yeah.
making salt covenants, but you're telling people do not have anything don't put salt around, don't do that. Okay, well, which is it? Should we actually listen to what the texts are saying, talking about salt, or should we avoid this stuff because it's
It's
bad?
ignorance.
There's
They
so
try
much
to keep us
contradiction.
ignorant so we have no power. And that
That's what
all
it is.
stems from religion becoming a money-making enterprise.
That's what it
And it's
is.
greed. It's greed, because when they could stop women from healing other women, we didn't need to go pay the church to pray for us.
Yeah,
When we became
there's a lot of them.
501c3 churches and we don't have to pay taxes. And I mean, like, even back in the medieval periods, if a king wanted to divorce his wife, all he had to do was basically pay alms to the church to build a library and give them some books. And suddenly he was allowed to divorce his wife. Where anybody else in the church did it, they'd be like banished.
Yeah, it would. You excommunicated if you're Catholic.
It's about making money. And if they can control our health and our wealth and our spiritual life, then they have it all. We're still enslaved at
That's
that
true.
point.
It really is. I think that is true. And I think that in many ways the steering that society in its I shouldn't say society in itself, that capitalism in itself
Mm-hmm.
has been to where, I mean, things are so incredibly expensive, incredibly expensive. It's actually, I think, going to backfire. A lot of us are getting to the point to where it's just like, I really don't need that. And we're also
Right.
starting to realize and understand, and we can't, certain subjects we can't go into, but we're starting to realize that there's a lot of items that have been pushed on us unnecessarily that we could we could go into a grassroots way, just like I make
Big
oregano
pharma.
teas. Oregano is antibacterial. Going back to the oranges, or grapefruit, boil those. It gives you stuff that helps you. It's antivirals and all. I
If
think
you
we're
have
really
mucus in your lungs, take a spoonful of thyme, because
yeah,
that's thymol,
thyme and
which is a
oregano
natural
teas. Yes,
mucinex,
I
and
do
it
the
does a better
thyme,
job.
oregano, turmeric, and hibiscus. I make those tea just to clear and cleanse myself out. I really think that we're getting to that point that the knowledge that people like you had that back, in the 80s when we were all, putting freeze it on our hair and our hair was way out to here and way out to here. I think we're
I do
going
the
from
fire
that
cider
era. Yeah, fire cider. I
and
think we're going
elderberry.
from that era to where those of us that were, wow, she's weird. And now it is like you're saying, now I think society is moving
Now
towards
people want to come pay to take a
more.
class to learn. When you couldn't tell them, they just shut you up. But one thing I learned during COVID, when the supply chains became very tight, because other countries where we get crystals from and incense from, the sages and other herbs from, when those supply chains shut down, my husband said, well, what are you going to do if you can't get any merchandise? And I said, I'm here for the people, to teach the people that we don't need to own any of those things. And then I become a church. I then
That's true.
become
You're
a
right, Dean.
ministry and minister to the people. And I teach them how to do all the things without any of the things.
Deana said, religion is man-made. Personal relationship with God is freeing. I do
Right.
think that. and a relationship with yourself. Um, and I think with the land, and
Hmm.
even with the land that we're at, I very strongly believe that the exact spot, place, coordinates, and everything where we're born has an immense amount to do with who we are, what we are, who we become. Um, and even if you can't get a hold of those items, like you just said, you pull the, well, my dog is like, Ellie's trying to tell everybody hello. She just won't stop. Okay, Ellie.
She said,
I think
"Mom, I gotta go out. Snack
yes, she
time."
is. She's like, play with me. She's like our little mascot here at Glancing Behind the
Oh,
Veil. But
it's like I said earlier, though. Just take your shoes off and stand in your bare feet on the grass,
yeah, on your
and
grounds,
and and take it all in. All of the herbs, all of the crystals, all of the minerals are right there for you.
the soils, the grasses.
We
I mean,
don't
I've
have
been
to
watching
own
a
the
lot of my
things
friends to where
and
they're
possess
actually
them.
doing the gathering, like roadside gathering. Not so much right at the roadside because you will have a lot of the automotive
Pesticides
stuff. Yeah,
and
a lot of that.
petroleum. Yeah.
But basically, like going into the natural areas and just start harvesting. They used to think hunter gatherers were so remedial. No, I think they kind of had a lot more going on than what we gave them credit for.
We went on a camp out, my employees and I, for my birthday last year, and we brought like one of my really good friends, Zena, with us, and that's her name. She's from Jordan, and she is like Xena Princess Warrior. She's walking barefoot through the woods and has her knife out, and she goes, "This is fresh ginger. This is local ginger. We could live here forever and never need to buy a thing." And she's like handing me a piece of ginger root with the dirt still on it. She's like, "Eat it. It is so good
It
for
is
you."
so good.
And I'm
I,
sticking it in my mouth like it doesn't quite taste like the candied ginger I'm used to.
I know I
But
was having a lot of problems with like the drainage and the mucus and everything. And so I looked at it
yeah,
and I just started doing nonstop ginger. I had more ginger in me than a sushi bar, let me tell you. I was
well,
doing
get rid of
constant
the
ginger,
dairy.
but
If ever
within
you're
no
having
time.
mucus issues,
Yeah.
get rid of the dairy.
Yeah, it
Cut
did.
it
I
out.
did the oregano thyme with the ginger and turmeric and stuff, and it really did. And I had
And the
had
fire
2
cider
regimens.
that she had mentioned earlier is really good for that.
Now, is that fire cider? Is that the one with ginger?
Yes, it has
Okay, I
ginger in
thought
it,
it was.
cayenne in it, apple cider vinegar. It has all the good things, oranges, lemons, like anything you can imagine. It's in there. It's hot, it's potent, it's the best.
That'll clear you right out.
Oh yeah. Turmeric, it's great.
And it is. That is great stuff. It really is. Now, if any of you do have any further interest, I'm going to have Dawn. I'm going to have Dawn back on. She has such a wealth of knowledge. I mean, she really does.
Thank you.
And if, yeah, and I'm sure that you can reach out to her on the internet and through social media. But you can also, if you're local, which is kind of like a blessing to you, you could go to. She has not one, but she has 2 brick and mortar shops, and both of them they're in nice locations. Um, and it is like she said, they are nice locations. The one is like around a bunch of attorney offices and various things. It's a wonderful area. And then the other one's right around the corner from my dad. You can stop and grab yourself something to eat in the area, go shopping. I mean, it is. It's really a nice area. I think it's just enjoyable.
But it's nice. I
Yeah,
I was
it's
a little
moving
hesitant
around
at
there.
first with the area, but I love it. There I have no worries here at either of my locations. But
No.
one
And
one thing
make
I
sure
wanted
that you
to ask,
remember to share this podcast and
yeah,
like it. And that way I also know which guest, the more that you guys interact, because you guys are interacting with us. You're not spectators, you're actually guests, but you're guest viewers. And I like for you to interact with us if at all possible. And then I know, hey, they really interacted a lot with this guest. So we need to make sure that we bring her back again too. Now, are you willing to tell about your angel visitor?
okay, so
Let's tell about him real quick as we're closing
I
out.
don't know how much you want me to go into detail, but lately I've been getting
Tabitha
cyberbullied.
must have felt the same exact thing at the same talk about feeling each other. She said, "Do you have time for the angel story?" So
Yeah.
see, we were reading each
So
other.
even as adults, some of us will still get cyberbullied from time to time. And I've had a situation where the last couple of weeks I've been getting cyberbullied. And I'm the type of person, you bring me drama, I will block and bless in a heartbeat because I don't have time for it. Too busy
Yeah,
for that mess.
that's the way to
But
do it.
when people are bringing you the screenshots and saying like, did you see what this person said? It's almost like, what? what on earth? That is so wrong. Why would they do that? Well, the same day that all of this was unfolding, and I was just kind of like gut punch, like, who, why in the world would anybody spend their energy doing this and tearing some other human being down? This gentleman walked in, big old guy. If you've ever seen The Green Mile, he's that guy in there that had the real deep voice that took on the cancers and everything for everybody. So he comes in and he's booming in his voice and he's saying, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." And he walks up real slowly toward me. And I'm like, this is an interesting character. He has a Rasta hat on, a bunch of old necklaces and talismans dripping from him. His hands look like concrete. And I mean, he would scare most anybody that didn't know him because it's just not a presence that we're used to dealing with. And he said, "Young lady, I have a message here from the Lord God Almighty. I am the number one entertainer. And it ain't easy being the number one entertainer, but God has sent me here for a message for you." And
Oh,
I was
we
like,
have angels that we
"Oh,
entertain unawares. Huh.
okay." I had goosebumps. And that's exactly what I heard in my spiritual ear was daily we entertain angels unaware. And I thought, well, if he's the number one entertainer, this has got to be my guardian angel. So I received his message. And he said, "God needs me to tell you, you ain't got to say a thing in your defense. You don't have to do a thing in your defense. No weapon formed against you will prosper. God's got you. You just sit back and let God handle it. God will have the vengeance. God will have the justice. Everything will be taken care of." And I was like, boy, I
Wow.
needed to hear that
That
because
was
I wanted to like go and say like, "Hey, I'm sorry if I've ever done anything to offend you. I apologize. Please forgive me.
the carnal
And
side of
that
us
is
does
not
want to
my
do that
intention.
easily.
I've never done that. What you're accusing me of, I would never do that to somebody. Why are you doing it to me?" Well,
Yeah.
then I had to realize in that moment when he gave me that divine message, this speaks more of their energy than it does of mine. For another small business to tear down and bully another small business on lies and slander, if I was the type of person to sue, I could have had a lawsuit in a heartbeat. All the screenshots,
And she
everything was
did
sent
have
to
that
me.
on a video of him coming in, Tabitha.
Yes, not one, but like at least 20 customers and people have sent me screenshots. And I immediately tell them like, I don't want to see it. I don't care. Do me a favor, save that file in a Google Drive. If I ever need it, I know that you've got it, but I don't want to see it. And they were protecting me. They didn't want me to read those things. But when he came in and spoke peace over me, I had nothing but peace. I
Then
sleep
you
very
know.
well at night. And ever since then, we have been turbocharged with positivity, turbocharged with love, turbocharged with abundance. The sales just flowing in, and it's like, okay, there's definitely something to this.
Yeah,
There's
you
definitely something
accepted
to
the
this.
message and you didn't question it. You accepted the message
No,
that was sent to you. That's
you
fantastic.
have to
So
receive the
did he
messages
stay?
and heed.
Did he stay or leave or
Oh, well,
what
when
happened
he
with
was
him?
here, he had rings on every finger all the way down to his fingertips, which was very bizarre.
What?
Like not one ring on one finger. He had one, two, three, four ring like from knuckle to fingertip. And it was
Wow.
just bizarre to see a man with that many rings on his fingers all the way down to the fingertip. And he's talking to me and this ring jumps off and he said, "Young lady, put that ring on my finger." And I looked at him and I was like, I'm thinking to myself, like, why don't you put the ring on your finger? It's like asking somebody to tie my shoe. It's like, why don't you tie your shoe? But I felt like I needed to hear him and obey. And as he's holding his hand out there, I'm like, okay, what
Mm.
finger am I going to cram this little ring onto? Because the ring was tiny and his hands were like concrete and they were full. And I'm like, where am I going to put this ring? And as he's holding his hand up there, I finally like nudge it on, and he goes, "That's the one. Get it on there for me. Get it on there." And I'm like, "Am I marrying my guardian angel at this
I
point?"
was going to say that
Well,
is actually ritualistic.
it was very ritualistic. Very ritualistic. And then
Oh,
he come in again yesterday. So something else in that whole situation kind of sparked up, and I'm like, are we still not done with this? Like, when
no,
does this move on? And as
no.
soon as I was here, he comes in and he's like, "Hello." And I'm like, "My guardian angel." And I said, "You gave me such a great message the other day, and I really needed it. And it was very good for what I was going through in that moment. Thank you." And we just embraced, and he gave me the biggest hug. And he goes, "I spent the night in jail for the last couple of nights." And I'm like, "What?" And he said, "They got me on loitering." And he goes, "But that's okay. The Lord God needed me to go give a message to them men in the jail. And I ministered to the sheriffs too." And I'm like, that is amazing. Like, just his joy, nothing's going to bring him down. If that man can spend time in jail, if my guardian angel can spend time in jail, he is my earth angel. And if he can, and he's like, "Young lady, I've been a Rasta shaman since 1985. And I'm like, that is freaking awesome. My guardian angel's an earth angel, and he's a Rasta shaman. How about that? Not everybody can say that. So I sent him packing with some money and some M&Ms. I had a pack of M&Ms and some money, and just got to love on him and send him on his way to give him something to eat. But he was the sweetest man.
Tabitha Meadows said Jesus was a bad boy. You know what? And if you start reading some of the other, there's a lot of things that weren't considered canonical, and you really start reading all the other stuff. Yes, you're absolutely right. But I mean, even if we go into what's canonical, first thing you said was trade your coat for a sword. So you're right. Yeah, he really was. He turned up some tables and everything else. Yeah, a friend of mine, Elizabeth Leonard, she told me something years ago, and it has always stuck with me. I thought it was pretty wise. She said that people will be in your life as long as you still have something to learn from them. And I really do believe that. So if he's came back, there's still something for you to learn from
Mhm.
him. I mean,
And
I
maybe
don't know
there's
what
something
that
from
would
him to
be.
learn, for him to
Or
learn from me.
I'm gonna say, or in the other side, it may be going both directions. Um, I mean, even there's humility. I mean, obviously, he's taught that there's still joy in humility. I mean,
Well, and if there's
that's a
people
hard
calling the
one to
police
do,
on
but
him for loitering, maybe he just needs some love and
yeah, that might be
acceptance.
what it was. But that's kind of neat. Yeah, that the movie The Green Mile, where you talk about something that really brings a
I mean,
lot of
his
our
voice was just like that.
wow, that is fantastic.
And when he
But
leaves, he's singing the same thing. "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." And it's just like a
really,
little old timey church choir. It's really awesome, the energy that he has.
wow, that is neat. That is pretty neat. Well, I'll tell you what. We went 13 minutes over our time.
Oops.
I I could still kept talking and not even realize. I'm surprised Brandon hasn't said anything to us, but he hasn't yet. He must be lacking that. Um, he and I were talking not too long back. I was watching a video that they had, and it was discussing when he's a shaman. Actually, it's a Cherokee shaman. He's of the Cherokee Nation, and he was discussing what you had mentioned earlier about giving permission, to take items and using different items and stuff like that. And as I was listening to the podcast that he was on, he was a guest speaker on someone else's podcast. They were explaining some of the things that happened in the Nordic, and then he was paying attention to what the parallels were in the shamanic, which is Native American. His
Mhm.
is Native American, and I'm Bandri, which it's Druid. And I was listening to it, and I was thinking like all the parallels that happen, with that. And it's just I just think it's absolutely fascinating that I think we all are part of this one great big circle,
More in common.
circle of life. Yeah,
than
exactly. And I think that there's so much that we all have to learn from each other, that the internet is giving us the I don't know if I would call it the luxury, but I guess it would be the luxury, it'd be the blessing that all these years we've not had. I mean, you had to go into a library, and that had to be something that, it had to be printed out, and it had to be approved by editors, and just like Canonical. A lot of people there's no way you would have read the Book of Enoch or any of these other things, because it wasn't allowed. But, we can now get into all these different wealths of knowledge and start learning these things and sharing it, whether it be the crystals and the herbals, a lot. And it's like you said, it's a lot of stuff that was intentionally taken from us and from you. Did you ever open up a book in school and it told you, hey, you can use oregano for an antiviral? No. You didn't learn about any of this stuff in school, or and a lot of that stuff that you learned, it wasn't even, it was intentionally taken away from us. And I do agree about that. And I think that we've evolved to the point that we're looking backward. Sometimes looking backward helps. And I think that we've evolved to the point that we're looking backward and starting to share all this wealth of knowledge with each other, across the globe. I really appreciate you coming in. Tabitha says, yes, share and help others. Remember what we are. That's true. Absolutely. I think that's what I think we are getting back to the self, getting back to like the core, just like the energy Taurus. The energy has to go away to come back in. I mean, it really is. And I think that's the same thing with the energy and the knowledge that we have going on in the metaphysical world right now. We're starting to realize that there was a lot more to what all those, savages and, all those uncivilized people. And I mean, it's just, there's no way that Machu Picchu and all these different incredibly intricate places across the earth, and we're talking anywhere from South America, and there's pyramids in North America, that they're hiding these facts. They're saying the Native Americans couldn't have made these. Yes, they did. You look at Serpent Mound, or any of these earth effigies and stuff. There's so much knowledge with the cosmology and the archaeoastral alignments and everything. I think it's time that we start revisiting a lot of these truths that's been taken from us in the crystals. And I really appreciate everything that you've shared with us this evening.
Thank you.
So you really have. You've shared a lot. Usually I would have had 2 guests as what I was planning. When I started looking into it, I thought, you know what? She can hold down a full episode. And actually we went over. Yeah, we went over on it. And I
whole season.
Yeah, and all of us, anybody, I would like for you to go ahead and like and share this podcast. The podcast will be recorded and it will be available to go watch later. I will put in the comments the information and everything about Dawn, and I'm going to thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
And I appreciate all the time and the effort and the energy that you put into doing this podcast, as well as preparing for this podcast. And I appreciate that. And we will be seeing you guys soon. And I want to thank you guys for joining us at Glancing Behind the Veil on Sky Door Network. And I want to thank our producers. And we have actually a shaman behind the curtain working things out, but he sometimes he pops up, but he didn't pop up in this episode. He's hiding behind the curtain, behind the veil. And I appreciate all
blessings, everybody. Thank you for joining.
Yes. And you guys, I want to send everybody have a blessings, and you guys have a blessed evening. And thank you for joining us.